Maverick News presents The Rick Walker Show. Defrag your mind.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rick Walker. Welcome back to the Maverick News channel. My apologies for the extended opener this evening. Once again, Rumble did not connect, so I had to work some technical wizardry here behind the scenes, and it's firing now. So we're good to go on all channels. Thanks for coming back and spending the evening here. There's a lot of ground to cover. What a strange news day that really began overnight. Justin Moore. Now there's a name that will be forever seared into my memory. 32 years old, accused of decapitating his father. Particularly concerning this case is because of what he was saying in a YouTube video where he displayed, and if you are listening to this, just be forewarned, this gets very graphic, if it hasn't already. Okay, so cover your ears for a minute if you don't want to hear this. Displayed his father's head in this video. Twice. An extended video. Very concerning to me because of the words that he was using. In addition, he wrote books. He wrote songs. He wrote poetry. I was able to obtain a lot of this material overnight before it was scrubbed off the internet. So I've gone through as much of it as I possibly can. I speed read some of the material from his books, probably over, I was able to get through maybe 600 or 700 pages. Between then and now, I'm a little tired. And honestly, when you start digging into this stuff, it starts to screw with your mind. But the disturbing thing for me, folks, is, and this should be a warning to everyone out there tonight, is that the words that he's using, I'm hearing from other people. And I've said this a number of times. There's a pattern here. We'll talk about it more during the program. And I have to be very careful what I share because, one, I want to be responsible. Two, if I reveal too much information, they will ban not just probably, they'll not just take the video down. They'll go much further, these censors. Because, one, they don't want you to be exposed to this mind-twisting information. And two, they don't want you to see it. There are several reasons why they don't want you to see this stuff. And there's a bunch of reasons why I won't show you some of it, but I will tell you as much as I can. We'll get into it. Also, related to this, I think there was a hearing in the Capitol, Washington, today. Social media giants being grilled. Mark Zuckerberg really took it on the chin. Internet safety. The big focus here was on safety for children and the damage that social media has done to people, to families, and mostly to children. This ties in directly to what our last headline story is all about tonight. So we're going to touch on all of that. this evening, as well as other top news of the day. Soup Mama, I thought was going to join us on the program tonight live just to give us a quick update. But I'm not sure that that's going to happen this evening because I just received a message saying that she is having some internet difficulties, some trouble keeping a clean feed coming out of wherever she is en route to the Texas border. But I will give you the latest information on what is going on down there. And, I think she has a live feed going from her vehicle. So maybe we can tap into a bit of that to just kind of show you what's going on with that. The convoy heading that way, I'm told, has grown a little bit. So, some interesting developments down there. And two different kinds of narratives being spun up in advance of the convoy arriving down in Eagle Pass, Texas. So we'll get into it. We have other stories lined up for you tonight as well, but those are the two big ones, the three big ones. And that border story, of course, will likely play out as the number one issue over the next year as part of this U.S. presidential election. Don't go away. We'll have it all on the other side.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
We're back and ready to start digging into tonight's top stories. Let's start right off the top with this grilling that Mark Zuckerberg took today. He ended up apologizing to families who have been negatively affected by social media. Let me just need to get this queued up. I had this for you, but so here we go. So Mark Zuckerberg ends up apologizing to parents at this online child safety hearing. It's an online Senate committee that was looking at ways that social media have been putting children at risk. So these lawmakers grilled Zuckerberg and the CEOs of TikTok, Discord, X, formerly known as Twitter, and Snap at this Senate Judiciary Committee hearing. It was called a Big Tech and the Online Child Sexual Exploitation Crisis. So, while Zuckerberg was being questioned, parents held up photos of their children. Senators went ahead and questioned the CEOs. Many also wore these blue ribbons that read "Stop Online Harms," passed COSA, referring to the Kids Online Safety Act. That would create what they call a duty of care for social media companies. And of course, right now, they really enjoy immunity from prosecution because they're not viewed under the law as an actual publisher. So they're not being held responsible at this point for the content posted by those who are creators, whether companies or individuals. But these parents who showed up were visibly upset with Zuckerberg in particular when he entered this hearing room. And he's been under intense scrutiny and criticism over the last few years, especially around the issue of child safety issues on Facebook, Instagram. And it was Senator Josh Hawley that really had Zuckerberg under the gun. Let me bring up the exchange between Hawley and Zuckerberg. Fiery, really, really heavy duty stuff here. Powerful, and Zuckerberg was back on his heels, I'll tell you that. Now, I personally am not a huge fan of this Data the Android clone. Although he was looking a little less Android-like today. His hair just looked a little bit different. And the tone of his skin also a little different. Not that any of that ultimately matters, I suppose. What really matters here is that he was held to account by Josh Hawley. Here we go.
TikTok under the influence of the Chinese Communist Party.
Sorry, this is the wrong clip. Hang on. That is the CEO of TikTok. Here's Zuckerberg. Wrong guy, wrong time. We're going to go back to that, though. We'll get that queued up. Here's Zuckerberg.
Thank you, Senator Blumenthal. We have a vote on, has Senator Cotton, have you voted on and Senator Hawley, you haven't voted yet? You're next. And I don't know how long the vote will be open, but I'll turn over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Zuckerberg, let me start with you. Did I hear you say in your opening statement that there's no link between mental health and social media use?
Senator, what I said is I think it's important to look at the science. I know it's people widely talk about this as if that is something that's already been proven. And I think that the bulk of the scientific evidence does not support that.
Well, really, let me just remind you of some of the science from your own company. Instagram studied the effect of your platform on teenagers. Let me just read you some quotes from the Wall Street Journal's report on this. Company researchers found that Instagram is harmful for a sizable percentage of teenagers, most notably teenage girls. Here's a quote from your own study. Quote, "We make body image issues worse for 1 in 3 teen girls." Here's another quote. Teens blamed Instagram, this is your study, for increases in the rate of anxiety and depression. This reaction was unprompted and consistent across all groups. That's your study.
Senator, we try to understand the feedback and how people feel about the services. We can improve.
Wait a minute, your own study says that you make life worse for 1 in 3 teenage girls. You increase
Senator,
anxiety and depression. That's what it says. And you're here testifying to us in public that there's no link. You've been doing this for years. For years, you've been coming in public and testifying under oath that there's absolutely no link. Your product is wonderful. The science is nascent, full speed ahead, while internally, you know full well your product is a disaster for teenagers.
Senator,
and yet you keep
true.
right on doing what you're doing. Right?
That's not true. That's not true.
Let me show you some other facts I know that you're familiar with. Wait a minute. That's not a question. That's not a question. Those are facts, Mr. Zuckerberg. That's not a question.
Those aren't facts.
Here, let me show you some more facts. Here's some information from a whistleblower who came before the Senate and testified under oath in public. He worked for you. He's a senior executive. Here's what he showed he found when he studied your products. So, for example, this is girls between the ages of 13 and 15 years old. 37% of them reported that they had been exposed to nudity on the platform unwanted in the last 7 days. 24% said that they had experienced unwanted sexual advances they'd been propositioned in the last 7 days. 17% said they had encountered self-harm content pushed at them in the last 7 days. Now, I know you're familiar with these stats because he sent you an email where he lined it all out. I mean, we've got a copy of it right here. My question is, who did you fire for this? Who got fired because of that?
Senator, we study all of this because it's important and we want to improve our services.
Well, you just told
And
me
I
a
think
second
that
ago
the-
you studied it, that there was no linkage. Who did you
Senator,
fire?
Yeah, I said you mischaracterized. the data.
37% of teenage girls between 13 and 15 were exposed to unwanted nudity in a week on Instagram. You knew about it. Who did you fire?
Senator, this is why we're building all
Who
these
did you
different
fire?
tools. Senator, I don't think that's.
Who did you fire?
I'm not going to answer that.
Because you didn't fire anybody, right? You didn't take any significant action.
It's appropriate to talk about like
It's not
individual HR
appropriate.
decisions.
Do you know
public
who's
like
sitting
that.
behind you? You've got families from across the nation whose children are either severely harmed or gone, and you don't think it's appropriate to talk about steps that you took? The fact that you didn't fire a
I'm
single
happy
person?
to-
Let me
happy
ask
to
you
talk
this.
about
Let me
the
ask you
steps
this.
that we took.
Have you
If you'd like me to
compensated
speak.
any of the victims?
Sorry,
Have you compensated any of the victims? These
I
girls, have you compensated them?
don't believe so.
Why not? Don't you think they deserve some compensation for what your platform has done? Help with
Senator-
counseling services, help with dealing with the issues that your services cause?
Our job is to make sure that we build tools to help keep people safe.
Are you
across
going
our
to
platform.
compensate them?
Senator, our job and what we take seriously is making sure that we build industry-leading tools to find harmful
To make
content,
money.
take it off the services,
To make money.
and to build tools that empower parents.
So you
that
didn't
help
take
work with
any
law-
action, you didn't
That's
take
not
any
true,
action, you
Senator.
didn't fire anybody, you haven't
That's not true.
compensated a
That's
single
not-
victim.
that's
Let
not
me
what I
ask you
said.
this, let me ask you this. There's families of victims here today. Have you apologized to the victims? Would you like to do so now?
Well,
They're here, you're on national television. Would you like now to apologize to the victims who have been harmed by your product? Show them the pictures. Would you like to apologize for what you've done to these good people?
I'm sorry for everything that you involved in this. It's terrible knowing that you go through the things that your families have suffered. And this is why we invested so much and are going to continue doing industry-leading efforts to make sure that no one has to go through the types of things that your families have had to suffer.
You know, why, Mr. Zuckerberg, why should your company not be sued for this? Why is it that you can claim, you hide behind a liability shield, you can't be held accountable? Shouldn't you be held accountable personally? Will you take personal responsibility?
Senator, I think I've already answered this. I mean, these
Well,
are
try
serious
this again.
issues.
Will you take personal responsibility?
Senator, I view my job and the job of our company as building the best tools that we can to keep our community safe.
Well, you're failing at
and
that.
Well, Senator, we're doing an industry-leading effort. We build
Oh,
AI tools that.
nonsense. Your product is killing people. Will you personally commit to compensating the victims? You're a billionaire. Will you commit to compensating the victims? Will you set up a compensation fund with
Senator,
your
I
money?
think these are
With your money?
complicated- Senator, these are complicated
Yes, no,
issues.
that's not a complicated question, though. That's a
Senator,
yes or no.
this is-
Will you set up a victims' compensation fund with your money? The money you made on these families sitting behind you? Yes or no?
Senator, I don't think that's my job is to
Sounds
make sure
like a
we build
no.
good tools. My
Sounds
job
like a
is
no.
to make sure that
Your job is to be responsible for what your company has done. You've made billions of dollars on the people sitting behind them. Are you here? You've done nothing to help them. You've done nothing to compensate them. You've done nothing to put it right. You could do so here today, and you should. You should, Mr. Zuckerberg. Before my time expires, Mr. Chu, let me just ask you, your platform, why should your platform not be banned in the United States of America?
This is the CEO of
You
TikTok.
are owned by a Chinese communist company or a company based in China. The editor-in-chief of your parent company is a Communist Party secretary. Your company has been surveilling Americans for years. According to leaked audio from more than 80 internal TikTok meetings, China-based employees of your company have repeatedly accessed non-public data of United States citizens. Your company has tracked journalists improperly gaining access to their IP addresses, user data, in an attempt to identify whether they're writing negative stories about you. Why should your platform is basically an espionage arm for the Chinese Communist Party? Why should you not be banned in the United States of America?
Senator, I disagree with your characterization. Many of what you have said, we have explained in a lot of detail. TikTok is used by 170 million Americans.
I
who
know, and every
create
single
love.
one of those Americans are in danger from the fact that you track their keystrokes, you track their app usage, you track their location data, and we know that all of that information can be accessed by Chinese employees who are subject to the dictates of the Chinese Communist Party. Why should you not be banned in this country?
Senator, that is not accurate. A lot of what you describe we collect, we don't.
It is 100% accurate. Do you deny that repeatedly Americans' data has been accessed by ByteDance employees in China?
We built a project that cost us billions of dollars to stop that, and we have made a lot of progress.
And it hasn't been stopped. According to the Wall Street Journal report from just yesterday, even now, ByteDance workers, without going through official channels, have access to the private information of American citizens. I'm quoting from the article, private information of American citizens, including their birth date, their IP address, and more. That's now.
Senator, as we know, the media doesn't always get it right. What we have.
But the Chinese Communist Party does?
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that we've spent billions of dollars to build this project. It's rigorous, it's robust, it's unprecedented, and I'm proud of the work that the 2,000 employees are doing to protect the data.
But it's not protected. That's the problem, Mr. Chu. It's not protected at all. It's subject to Communist Chinese Party inspection and review. Your app, unlike anybody else sitting here, and heaven knows I've got problems with everybody here, but your app, unlike any of those, is subject to the control and inspection of a foreign hostile government that has actively trying to track the information of whereabouts of every American that they get their hands on. Your app ought to be banned in the United States of America for the security of this country. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Hirono.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As we've heard, children face all sorts of dangers when they use social media, from mental health harms to sexual exploitation, even trafficking. Sex trafficking is a serious problem in my home state of Hawaii, especially for Native Hawaiian victims. That social media platforms are being used to facilitate this trafficking, as well as the creation and distribution of C-scam is deeply concerning, but it's happening. For example, several years ago, a military police officer stationed in Hawaii was sentenced to 15 years in prison for producing C-scam as part of his online exploitation of a minor female. He began communicating with this 12-year-old girl through Instagram. He then used Snapchat to send her sexually explicit photos and to solicit such photos from her. He later used these photos to blackmail her. And just last month, the FBI arrested a neo-Nazi cult leader in Hawaii who lured victims to his Discord server. He used that server to share images of extremely disturbing child sexual abuse material interspersed with neo-Nazi imagery. Members of his child exploitation and hate group are also present on Instagram, Snapchat, X, and TikTok, all of which they use to recruit potential members and victims. In many cases, including the ones I just mentioned, your companies played a role in helping law enforcement investigate these offenders. But by the time of the investigation, so much damage had already been done. This hearing is about how to keep children safe online, and we've listened to all of your testimony, to seemingly impressive safeguards for young users. You try to limit the time that they spend. You require parental consent. You have all of these tools, yet trafficking and exploitation of minors online and on your platforms continues to be rampant. Nearly all of your companies make your money through advertising, specifically by selling the attention of your users. Your product is your users. As a Meta product designer wrote in an email, quote, "Young ones are the best ones. You want to bring people to your service young and early," end quote. In other words, hook them early. Research published last month by Harvard School of Public Health estimates that Snap makes an astounding 41% of its revenues by addressing to users under 18. With TikTok, it's 35%. 7 of the 10 largest Discord servers, attracting many paying users, are for games used primarily by teens, by children. All this is to say that social media companies, yours and others, make money by attracting kids to your platforms. But ensuring safety doesn't make money, it costs money. If you are going to continue to attract kids to your platforms, you have an obligation to ensure they are safe on the platforms, because the current situation is untenable. That is why we're having this hearing. But to ensure safety for our children, that costs money. Your companies cannot continue to profit off young users, only to look the other way when those users, our children, are harmed online. We've had a lot of comments about the Section 230 protections. And I think we are definitely heading in that direction. And some of the 5 bills that we have already passed out of this committee talks about limiting the liability protections for you. Last November, this is for Mr. Zuckerberg.
Okay, enough of her. Let's move on to Senator Marsha Blackburn, who asked Zuckerberg about pedophilia network online. So still on this, and Zuckerberg really the guy who was thrust into the limelight on this, well, into the spotlight anyway. Yeah, he took the most damage today, for sure. Here she is, Blackburn.
How can you ensure that Instagram creators, your product, your program, does not facilitate illegal activities when you fail to remove content pertaining to the sale of minors? And it is happening once every 2 minutes in this country.
Senator, our tools for identifying that kind of content are industry leading. That doesn't mean we're perfect. There are definitely issues that we have, but we continue to
Mr.
invest a ton in
Zuckerberg,
it.
yes, there are a lot that is slipping through. It appears that you're trying to be the premier sex trafficking
Of course
site
not, Senator.
in this
Senator,
country.
that's ridiculous.
No, it
Senator,
is not ridiculous.
of
You
course
want
we
to
don't
turn
want
around
this-
and
we
tell
don't want
these
this
people
content
that,
on our platforms, and
why don't you take it down?
we do take it
We
down.
are here discussing,
We do
we
more
need
work to
you
take it
all
down
to
than-
work
than-
with
than-
us. No, you're not. You are not. And the problem is, we've been working on this. Senator Welch is over there. We've been working on this stuff for a decade. You have an army of lawyers and lobbyists that have fought us on this every step of the way. You work with Net Choice, the Cato Institute, Taxpayers Protection Alliance, and Chamber of Progress to actually fight our bipartisan legislation to keep kids safe online. So are you going to stop funding these groups? Are you going to stop lobbying against this and come to the table and work with us? Yes or no?
Senator, we have a.
Yes or no?
Of course, we'll work with you on the legislation.
Okay,
I mean,
the
it's been
door
hard
is
to-
open. We've got all these bills. You need to come to the table. Each and every one of you need to come to the table, and you need to work with us. Kids are dying.
Okay. Oh. So there's that. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, I'll try to get you Ted Cruz, who also went after Zuckerberg today. So don't go away. I've got more.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
Okay, and as promised, here's Ted Cruz.
In June of 2023, the Wall Street Journal reported that Instagram's recommendation systems were actively connecting pedophiles to accounts that were advertising the sale of child sexual abuse material. In many cases, those accounts appeared to be run by underage children themselves, often using code words and emojis to advertise illicit material. In other cases, the accounts included indicia that the victim was being sex trafficked. Now, I know that Instagram has a team that works to prevent the abuse and exploitation of children online. But what was particularly concerning about the Wall Street Journal expose was the degree to which Instagram's own algorithm was promoting the discoverability of victims for pedophiles seeking child abuse material. In other words, this material wasn't just living on the dark corners of Instagram. Instagram was helping pedophiles find it by promoting graphic hashtags, including hashtag pedwhore and hashtag preteen sex to potential buyers. Instagram also displayed the following warning screen to individuals who were searching for child abuse material. These results may contain images of child. You gave users two choices: get resources or see results anyway. Mr. Zuckerberg, what the hell were you thinking?
All right, Senator. The basic science behind that is that when people are searching for something that is problematic, it's often helpful to, rather than just blocking it, to help direct them towards something that that could be helpful for getting them to get help.
In what, I understand get resources. In what sane universe is there a link for see results anyway?
Well, because we might be wrong. We try to trigger this warning, or we tried to, when we think that there's any chance that the results.
Okay, you might be wrong. Let me ask you, how many times was this warning screen displayed?
I don't know, but the
you don't know. Why don't you know?
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. But
you know what, Mr. Zuckerberg? It's interesting you say you don't know it off the top of your head, because I asked it in June of 2023 in an oversight letter, and your company refused to answer. Will you commit right now to within 5 days answering this question for this committee?
We'll follow up on that.
Is that a yes? Not a will follow up. I know how lawyers write statements saying we're not going to answer. Will you tell us how many times this warning screen was displayed? Yes or no?
Senator, I'll personally look into it. I'm not sure if we have.
Okay, so you're refusing to answer that. Let me ask you this. How many times did an Instagram user who got this warning that you're seeing images of child sexual abuse, how many times did that user click on see results anyway? I want to see that.
Senator, I'm not sure if we stored that, but I'll personally look into this and we'll follow up after.
And what?
Yep. Yep. And if you take a look, all the way down at everything that happened today, it was Zuckerberg. A little bit from the CEO of TikTok. But those are the two guys who really had it in today, who really took it on the chin. And, I would say justifiably so in many respects. Difficult to run a social media platform because you don't create the content. You have to monitor what everybody is doing. And here's the thing. I know that a lot of you out there tonight are cheering as these guys are being held accountable. And yet at the same time, we're all sitting around night after night complaining about censorship. And then today, as a result of this, we're likely to get more censorship. In this particular case, I have to say, I'm not really opposed to it because I'm for free speech, not for a malicious speech or for the creation of content that is created with the intent of harm to other people. So, I don't think the solutions are really that difficult, at least in terms of deciding where to draw the line. Because I think if you look at our existing laws that govern free speech, censorship on traditional platforms, legacy platforms, you can apply those same standards largely to social media and then use the technology that we have at our disposal today to identify and deal with harmful content. So those tools, I think, are already there. It's just that you need to have the will and the cooperation of the social media giants in order to make that happen. Now here we go with Senator John Kennedy also weighing in on this tonight. And we'll let this run because this is probably today's top story. Well, it is here. We led with it. Hang on.
And I've heard you talk about the reforms you're going to make. I've heard you talk about the reforms you've made, and I appreciate them. And I've heard you talk about the reforms you're going to make. But I don't think you're going to solve the problem. I think Congress is going to have to help you. I think the reforms you're talking about to some extent are going to be like putting paint on rotten wood. And I'm not sure you're going to support this legislation. I'm not. The fact is that you and some of your internet colleagues who are not here are no longer, you're not companies, you're countries. You're very, very powerful. And you and some of your colleagues who are not here have blocked everything we have tried to do in terms of reasonable regulation. Everything from privacy to child exploitation. And in fact, we have a new definition of recession. A recession is when, we know we're in a recession when Google has to lay off 25 members of Congress. That's what we're down to. We're also down to this fact that your platforms are hurting children. I'm not saying they're not doing some good things, but they're hurting children. And I know how to count votes. And if this bill comes to the floor of the United States Senate, it will pass. What we're going to have to do, and I say this with all the respect I can muster, is convince my good friend Senator Schumer to go to Amazon, buy a spine online, and bring this bill to the Senate floor. And the House will then pass it.
Yeah. Senator John Kennedy. And then we do have this with the CEO of TikTok. And this is not specifically so much about, well, just listen to this exchange here. You know, in the case of TikTok, a lot of concerns about national security. Again, and corruption, I would say. Just follow the money, follow the power. And here we go.
Influence of the Chinese Communist Party?
No, Senator, we are a private business.
Okay, so you can see that your parent, ByteDance, is subject to the 2017 national security law, which requires Chinese companies to turn over information to the Chinese government and conceal it from the rest of the world. You concede that, correct?
Senator, the Chinese
Yes, no
business,
question. You conceded it early.
any company that does, any global business that does business in China has to follow the local
Okay.
laws.
Isn't it the case that ByteDance also has an internal Chinese Communist Party committee?
Like I said, all businesses that operate in China have to follow the local law.
So your parent company is subject to the national security law that requires it to answer the party. It has its own internal Chinese Communist Party committee. You answer to that parent company, but you expect us to believe that you're not under the influence of the Chinese Communist Party?
I understand this concern, Senator, which is why we built
Okay, it was,
Project
it
Texas.
was a yes or no question. Okay. But you used to work for ByteDance, didn't you? You were the CFO for ByteDance?
That is correct, Senator.
In April 2021, while you were the CFO, the Chinese Communist Party's China Internet Investment Fund purchased a 1% stake in ByteDance's main Chinese subsidiary, the ByteDance Technology Company. In return for that so-called 1% golden share, the party took one of 3 board seats at that subsidiary company. That's correct, isn't it?
It's for the Chinese business.
Is that correct?
It's for the Chinese business, yes.
That deal was finalized on April 30th, 2021. Isn't it true that you were appointed the CEO of TikTok the very next day on May 1, 2021?
Well, it's a coincidence.
It's a coincidence that you were the CFO,
Senator,
that the Chinese Communist Party took its golden share in its board seat, and the very next day you were appointed the CEO of TikTok. That's a hell of a coincidence.
It really is, Senator.
Yeah, it is. Okay. And before ByteDance, you were at a Chinese company called Xiaomi. Is that correct?
Yes, I used to work around the world.
Where did you live when you worked at Xiaomi?
I lived in China, like many expats.
Where exactly?
In Beijing, in China.
How many years did you live in Beijing?
Senator, I worked there for about 5 years.
So you lived there for 5 years?
Yes.
Isn't it the case that Xiaomi was sanctioned by the United States government in 2021 for being a communist China military company?
I'm here to talk about TikTok. I think they then had a lawsuit and it was overturned. I can't remember the details.
No,
it's another
it was
company.
the Biden administration that reversed those sanctions, just like, by the way, they reversed the terrorist designation on the Houthis in Yemen. How's that working out for them? But it was sanctioned as a Chinese communist military company. So you said today, as you often say, that you live in Singapore. Of what nation are you a citizen?
Singapore.
Are you a citizen of any other nation?
No, Senator.
Have you ever applied for Chinese citizenship?
Senator, I served my nation in
asking-
Singapore. No, I did not.
Do you have a Singaporean passport?
Yes, and I served my military for two and a half years in
Do you
Singapore.
have any other passports from any other nations?
No, Senator.
Your wife is an American citizen. Your children are American citizens.
That's correct.
Have you ever applied for American citizenship?
No, not yet.
Okay. Have you ever been a member of the Chinese Communist Party?
Senator, I'm Singaporean. No.
Have you ever been associated or affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party?
No, Senator. Again, I'm
Okay.
Singaporean.
Let me ask you some hopefully simple questions. You said earlier, in response to a question, that what happened at Tiananmen Square in June of 1989 was a massive protest. Anything else happen in Tiananmen Square?
Yes, I think it's well documented. There was a massacre.
There was
yeah.
the indiscriminate slaughter of hundreds or thousands of Chinese citizens. Do you agree with the Trump administration and the Biden administration that the Chinese government is committing genocide against the Uyghur people?
Senator, I've said this before. I think it's really important that anyone who cares about this topic or any topic can freely express themselves on TikTok.
It's a very simple question that unites both parties in our country and governments around the world. Is the Chinese government committing genocide against the Uyghur people?
Senator, anyone, including, you can come into TikTok and talk about this topic
I'm asking you,
or
yes
any
or no.
topic
You
that
are a
matters to you.
worldly, cosmopolitan, well-educated man who's expressed many opinions on many topics. Is the Chinese government committing genocide against the Uyghur people?
Actually, Senator, I talk mainly about my company, and I'm here to talk about what
yes or
TikTok
no?
does.
Yes or no? You're here to give testimony that's truthful and honest and complete. Let me ask you this. Joe Biden last year said that Xi Jinping was a dictator. Do you agree with Joe Biden? Is Xi Jinping a dictator?
Senator, I'm not going to comment on any world leaders.
Why won't you answer these very simple questions?
Senator, it's not appropriate for me as a businessman to comment on world leaders.
Are you scared that you'll lose your job if you say anything negative about the Chinese Communist Party?
I disagree that. You will find content that is critical of China on our platform.
The next time you go on, are you scared that you'll be arrested and disappear the next time you go to mainland China?
Senator, you will find content that's critical of China and any other country freely on TikTok.
Okay. Let's turn to what TikTok, a tool of the Chinese Communist Party, is doing to America's youth. Does the name Mason Edens ring a bell?
Senator, you may have to give me more specifics if you don't mind.
Yeah, he was a 16-year-old Arkansan. After a breakup in 2022, he went on your platform and searched for things like inspirational quotes and positive affirmations. Instead, he was served up numerous videos glamorizing suicide until he killed himself by gun. What about the name Chase Nazca? Does that ring a bell?
Would you mind giving me more details, please?
He was a 16-year-old who saw more than 1,000 videos on your platform about violence and suicide until he took his own life by stepping in front of a plane or train. Are you aware that his parents, Dean and Michelle, are suing TikTok and ByteDance for pushing their son to take his own life?
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Okay. Finally, Mr. Chu, has the Federal Trade Commission sued TikTok during the Biden administration?
Senator, I cannot talk about whether there's any
Are you
ongoing...
currently being sued by the Federal Trade Commission?
Senator, I cannot talk about any potential lawsuits.
I didn't say
whether they happen or
potential,
not.
actual. Are you being sued by the Federal Trade Commission?
Senator, I think I've given you my answer. I cannot talk about.
No. Ms. Yacarino's company is being sued, I believe. Mr. Zuckerberg's company is being sued, I believe. Yet TikTok, the agent of the Chinese Communist Party, is not being sued by the Biden administration. Are you familiar with the name Christina Kafara?
You may have to give me more details.
Christina Kafara was a paid advisor to ByteDance, your communist-influenced parent company. She was then hired by the Biden FTC to advise on how to sue Mr. Zuckerberg's company.
Senator, ByteDance is a global company and not a Chinese Communist company. It's owned by global investors.
Public reports indicate that your lobbyist visited the White House more than 40 times in 2022. How many times did your company's lobbyist visit the White House last year?
I don't know that, Senator.
Are you aware that the Biden campaign and the Democratic National Committee is on your platform? They have TikTok accounts?
Senator, we encourage people to come on
Which,
to
by
create
the way,
organic, authentic content.
they won't let their staffers use their personal phones. They give them separate phones that they only use TikTok on.
We encourage everyone to join, including yourself, Senator.
So all these companies are being sued by the FTC. You're not. The FTC has a former paid advisor, your parent, talking about how they can sue Mr. Zuckerberg's company. Joe Biden's reelection campaign, the Democratic National Committee, is on your platform. Let me ask you, have you or anyone else at TikTok communicated with or coordinated with the Biden administration, the Biden campaign, or the Democratic National Committee to influence the flow of information on your platform?
We work with any creators who want to use our campaign. It's all the same process that we have.
So what we have here, we have a company that's a tool of the Chinese Communist Party that is poisoning the minds of America's children, in some cases driving them to suicide, and that at best the Biden administration is taking a pass on, at worst maybe in collaboration with. Thank you, Mr. Chu.
Thank you, Senator Cotton. So we're going to take a break now.
Wow. That did not go well for Mr. Chu. I'll be right back.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, so that's what was going down there. Now, do I dare even get into this other story? Do I need to jump off these other platforms like YouTube for fear of being banned? I'm going to have to save it until the end, and then I'll decide if we leave it on YouTube or not. Subject matter very sensitive information they don't want you to hear or see. So let's just save it for the end, okay? But that'll be coming up. Now, also tonight, let's dip in and let's see if we can get a feed with Soup Mama. Now, she has been battling heavy traffic. She's had trouble with her feed, I guess, coming from the road. Yeah, we've got a live feed, so we'll just dip in, and I see her feed is more stabilized here. But she's been going through some pretty heavy traffic, I guess, tonight. She's with the convoy heading down to Eagle Pass, Texas. And this will segue nicely into that story. And you'll see that she's getting pixelated here. Sometimes coming in clear, sometimes pixelated. And hard to tell how many vehicles are actually in the convoy tonight. Last night, they were up to about 39, 40. We're told that they did pick up some more people along the way as they head down to the Texas-Mexico border, where we're seeing this huge issue bubble up. It's percolating. Emotions are running high as Texas makes a stand and is really in defiance now of the federal government, Joe Biden's administration, which has been given the authority by the Supreme Court, as I understand it, to go in and remove razor wire and other barriers set up along the border to secure that border, as Texas is exercising what it views as its right to maintain security and protect itself from the inadequate measures being undertaken by the federal government to secure the border, basically leaving it open to a flood of immigrants. And it is, as you know, a huge issue. This is probably going to be the main issue of the U.S. presidential election. And hard to tell from this tonight how many vehicles are in that convoy. But that is the live feed for us tonight. And we thank Soup Mama for that. But she'll be with us tomorrow. And when she is not immersed in heavy-duty traffic, she'll appear on camera and do another interview with us. She should, I think, at that point be in Eagle Pass, and she'll be able to give us, a good indication of what exactly is going on down there at the border. So that's en route tonight. I don't know how many exactly, but they have to be up well over 40 or 50 or 60 or something like that now. A far cry from the 700,000 that we were being told to expect in Eagle Pass, but something's going on down there now. As Soup Mama makes your way down there with that convoy, we are. How can I put this? They're sounding the alarm, and I I don't know how to how to weigh this stuff, because it's I don't know if it's fear mongering, if it's accurate. I don't know. I can only show you what they are reporting. And there's been a lot of half truths, inaccuracies, lack of perspective, use of artificial intelligence to create fake images and videos. There has been also the use of recycled footage to give people the impression that things I think are sometimes worse than they really are. In fact, here we are with on this NBC page, website. Some supporters of a far-right convoy headed to the Texas border are calling for civil war. It says a group that has referred to itself as God's Army says it is planning 3 peaceful assemblies on Saturday. The convoy has attracted only small numbers so far. This is a photo of migrants, but then and it's a Getty image. It's not actually an NBC News photo. So this is a stock photo from 2023, not current, not from today, not from, so that's not even a current photo. So they don't even have anybody there to take. Well, they probably do have somebody there, but this illustrates the problem, I guess. And I no doubt there is a problem. I'm just saying this is not current. And if it's that bad, I don't know if there's something going on. Like, why can't they show us what's going on today if they have people on the ground? And they must have an NBC affiliate station there somewhere. Anyway, I'm just telling you, that is a stock photo from U.S. border agents in Eagle Pass in Texas in 2023. So sometime last year. And then the story goes on and says that some supporters of a trucker convoy of self-described patriots, as they say, headed toward the U.S. border with Mexico have expressed violent rhetoric before planned events on Saturday. Well, we didn't hear anything about violence in what we broadcast yesterday or any day prior to this. I know that we do hear talk like that, though, among different people. And yeah, I mean, there is all this talk about a last stand and, the reference to God's Army and stuff like that. I have heard that. You can take that in a variety of ways, I guess. Organizers of the group are stressing nonviolence. That's what we heard yesterday. It says that right there, as they struggle to organize a convoy of the size they bragged about and assure their conspiracy-minded fellow right-wingers that this isn't all just a big government setup. And this is specifically referring to the convoy that I think the Peace Mama, or rather Soup Mama's in. The Take Our Border Back events have been advertised online as peaceful assembly and prayer. The organizers, who refer to themselves as We the People and God's Army, have put out a call for all active and retired law enforcement and military, veterans, mama bears, elected officials, business owners, ranchers, truckers, bikers, media, and law-abiding, freedom-loving Americans to join them at events planned for 3 locations on Saturday, Eagles Pass, Texas. So that's coming up this weekend. And then they're quoting some other people who are very critical of what the convoy is doing. It says, I think they're idiots. This person says Sachs, a set of people posting calls for violence. They're stupid. They're stupid Americans. They're stupid people. I mean, it's clear if you go to our website with the messages, these are peaceful assemblies. This is actually somebody responding to the people concerned about them. Because this person involved with the convoy being quoted says, and they're from California, says that the group is not looking for confrontations and that the government or migrants with government or migrants, and that anyone suggesting otherwise on the Telegram channels was not listening to what he said was a clear message coming from the top. Now, I have seen other reports of militia groups heading down there, but that's not part of this convoy. And I don't know if those militia groups will actually show up or if they're down there already. That was on, might have been a Fox News report. So you have different people doing different things, different groups doing different things. What will happen when it all comes together? I'm not sure. What the purpose is of, even Canadians that are heading down there, what are they going to do when they get there? I don't know. This is a political thing. This is a divide being created within the National Guard because of a jurisdiction issue over who has jurisdiction over the border. If the federal government isn't doing its job in defending the country by stemming the tide of illegal immigration, not upholding the law and the rule of law, then does the state have the right to step in, as Governor Abbott believes they do, to secure the border and protect the state? And then we're seeing that there are some people who think this could lead to the separation of Texas from the United States, the creation of an independent Texas. And that's a viable thing. I think the GDP of Texas is around 1.3 trillion, just the state of Texas alone. They have the oil, and I think it's bigger. I think their GDP is bigger than Mexico's. $1.88 trillion is Mexico's GDP. And Mexico is 1.2. I had it backward. 1.88 trillion for Texas gross domestic product. Their economy is bigger, just the state of Texas, than the entire country of Mexico. Yeah. And then you get the Biden regime off the back of Texas. Reduce regulation. Open up that spigot. Turn on the taps. Let the oil start to flow. And Texas could become even more prosperous. So they have the energy. They have the money. They have... that would give them the power. And then we saw that Russian lawmaker say that he was offering to help Texas take the necessary steps to achieve independence. You're seeing 25 other states say that they're backing Texas up. That's leading some to think that this might actually lead to some sort of a civil war with the country breaking up. Now, I don't know that it's actually at that point. I think we're still a fair ways off from that. It's going to take more to spark that, but with people heading down there, it makes it more volatile. Some states sending National Guard reinforcements in to back up Texas. Donald Trump encouraging that. It has become a presidential issue. This is becoming a pivot point in the election already early on in January. I mean, it's the end of January, but I mean early on in the election cycle here. So that is largely what it is about. Man. Dangerous stuff, really. And we'll see if we'll see if the country survives this or not. I'm just not sure. I think it's more serious than a lot of people realize, but not as serious as other people on the other side would make it out to be. Now, do I want to get into this other story yet? Let me see what else I have for you here before we move on to the most sensitive subject of the night, which is that story about Justin Moore. The guy who is accused of, Justin Mohn, accused of decapitating his father. Oh, yes, Elon Musk today. This week, what did we report? Neuralink implanted the first Neuralink chip into a human being, connecting it directly to a human being's brain. The human is still alive and recovering well. And as I said, oh, that was just Tuesday. That was just yesterday. No big deal. And now, today, to follow up, Elon Musk went for a walk with Optimus, an AI, artificial intelligence powered robot. Again, no big deal. It's just Wednesday. Here's a little video of Optimus going for a stroll. Treat it nicely. You do not want to piss it off. What happens, Elon, if I go up and kick it in the crotch? Or knock it over or insult it? So there's Optimus just out for a little stroll, taking in the world like an infant, soaking up information like a sponge and learning from it. Now, that same robot, I think it was the same one. It might, maybe they have more than one. They probably have a whole army of them. They haven't told us about at this point. But Elon did another demonstration and told the robot, fold a shirt, and it folds this shirt perfectly. It learned how to do it. I can't fold a shirt nicely. Not that I need a job folding shirts. I wouldn't probably enjoy it. I could learn, but not as quickly as the robot. That's Wednesday. Okay, so what are we going to have for Thursday? Skynet becomes self-aware. Thursday. Might happen faster than we expect. Man. Are you scared yet? I am. Just a little bit. But I'm not running away. You know, I think that honestly, that is where a lot of us make a mistake. And I think that's also at the hard part of the problem with the social media problem is that, you know, people, when confronted with fear, a lot of people will run. You know, you get that fight or flight thing happening. And so when people become afraid, what would they do? Like when given the idea of like a third world war or society falling apart, I listen to people and automatically they say, well, I've got my bug out bag and I'm going to run into the woods and I don't know what, build a lean-to and cook and take your pack of hot dogs and have a little camp out until the nuclear holocaust blows over. Well, I think people kind of do the same thing online. We're bombarded with negative messaging. We are you know, we're being taken on a ride, an emotional roller coaster ride online. Facebook was especially bad for it, less so now that news content in Canada is no longer available. I can't even post content on Facebook now because we're a news operation. So there's very little that I can actually post up there. But they would get you all upset, right? And then or show you stuff that you like for a while and then get you something that would get you really angry. And then, of course, you get that fight or flight instinct that kicks in, and then you respond online. You respond to that comment. I mean, you feel like you have to tell this person to go F themselves or whatever. And that's the equivalent of fight or flight. So it's like fight, but then I think people kind of run off into the woods and they hide behind their keyboard. And then I think too, they sit out there but you really can't get into the woods when you stay online. So you continue to get bombarded with this information, flooded with it. And then you end up going down rabbit holes, down side roads where you're being directed, and they keep feeding you information based on the algorithm, information that they know is of interest to you, information that they know is getting a response out of you to keep you engaged on the platform, feeding into your emotions, right? And I think that's where a lot of the trouble is. You can't really, you think you're escaping sometimes. You're going to hit this person with a comment, insult them or rebut what they say or whatever, and then back off, like retreat, but you really can't retreat because it's the social media platform itself that keeps hitting you with the message. So the references to those kids who have been suffering online, that one kid that they referenced who ended up committing suicide, we're told in that commentary that they were subjected to over 1,000 videos repeating messaging about suicide. 1,000 messages. You know, with television, knowing what I know about media, in order to get people to take action on an advertisement, the rule of thumb is that you need at least 3 to 5 impressions. Subject someone to the same commercial 3 to 5 times in order to get them, on average, to take action on the commercial. That's the average. Some people sooner, some people don't respond at all. But if you want an ad campaign to be effective, you have to hit your potential customers 3 to 5 times with the same message in order for them to take action. 1,000 times can break someone's will. 1,000 times can break someone's mind. Now, I don't have a study in front of me to back that statement up. But I think common sense would tell you that that would be the case. Repetitive messaging 1,000 times over on social media, you become engaged in it. That could break someone's mind. Can you imagine watching something 1,000 times over with even a similar message? Here's the thing. You've already been subjected to that. I've been subjected to it as well. Everybody is being subjected to it. It's much more powerful online than television ever was. Movies were powerful, television even more powerful because of reach and repetition. They call it in the advertising industry frequency. Not like frequency as in vibration or, how many megahertz you're broadcasting at, or what the amplitude modulation frequency is for AM radio. Nothing like that. We're talking about the number of times messaging is delivered. Frequency of messaging. Repetition is what sells. To condition someone's minds, or a collective mind even. Propaganda. Governments use it all the time. In fact, when I listened to that testimony today with those politicians, you know what that really reminded me of? The scene in Casablanca where who's the officer that comes into the bar. If you've seen the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about, that classic. Shocked to see gambling going on. Yeah, Captain Renault, okay? the officer. He comes in, he says, I'm shocked to find that gambling is going on in here. And of course, he knows the gambling is going on, and because he's been participating in it. And then I think in the scene, he actually reaches down when all the chaos is going on and takes some of the money and stuffs it in his jacket, if I recall correctly. It's been a while since I've seen the film. Yeah, shocked to see that gambling is going on in here. Those politicians know full well what's going on. Government is directly involved in social media. Government and the lettered agencies helped create the social media platforms, especially Google and YouTube. Make no mistake of that. Shocked to see that this is going on. It's all theater, folks. Every government's involved. Every government is engaging in this. TikTok, absolutely tied to the Chinese Communist Party. YouTube, Google, absolutely tied to the CIA. These are global social media platforms and companies, no question. And yes, they are. Their activities, practices are governed, shaped in each country by each government in each nation state where these platforms are operating. They have to conform with laws in each country. Just as in Canada, Facebook now does not provide any news feeds of any kind anymore. But globally, there are global, and yes, governments use them to manipulate people. Even on television, they were doing it for years. Do you know who the biggest advertiser in Canada is? Which company? The Canadian government. They spend more money on advertising than any big company. Number one. It's been like that for a long time. Governments, shocked they were to find that children were being harmed online and that people's minds were being shaped with online content, holding the social media platform owners or CEOs accountable. Yeah, and government, I think, in some cases does create online content. They certainly use it for advertising purposes. But, it's many governments, and it is many companies, and it is millions, if not, it's billions of online users globally creating all kinds of content. All of it being directed at human beings in ways that, without question, are intended to manipulate you. Which brings us to tonight's most sensitive story, and I will try to deal with this in a responsible way and in a way that won't get us banned. Now, I have all the video of Justin Mohn from last night. I'm not going to show it to you because, one, it will get us banned because it's been scrubbed from the internet. I have a copy of it. I have a copy of a bunch of his material, actually. So I've been, studying it again. And I'm very, very disturbed, very concerned for you tonight, for everyone, because what I'm seeing is a pattern, and I'm seeing danger. I'll explain when I come back.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
Okay. So there I am. I'm asleep last night. I get a phone call from someone, I won't tell you who, alerting me to this news story. It's someone who's been fantastic. They help actually in the background to kind of keep me up to date on a lot of news stories that I otherwise might miss simply because the volume of information that's flowing all the time is difficult to keep up with. But last night, there I am. I'd just fallen asleep for about a half an hour. Phone goes off. Rick, you have to look at this. This is like a really important story. You need to take a look at this before it's all removed from the internet. So I learned about this Justin Mohn, Mohn, 32-year-old man from a small town in Pennsylvania who has apparently accused of decapitating his father. Well, it's a good bet that he's guilty because he posted a video online. There it is. I have the whole thing. I'm not going to run it. Just going to show you this still shot. That's the guy. And if you are easily disturbed, like upset, you're not going to want to listen to the rest of this story. But everybody should listen to this story because I'm going to tell you what's going on. And I'm going to share some stuff with you that you're probably not going to hear anywhere else. So this guy holds up the head of his father, who was a federal government worker, on this video. Now, some things I'm not going to be able to tell you here tonight because it will get us banned. And at first it was like there was something weird about this story because it was very difficult to find any information about this anywhere, period, at all. There was some independent, there was a local media outlet that did post some information about it, but I wasn't prepared to go live or do anything with it until I was absolutely certain this was authentic. Because again, so much AI stuff out there, so many hoaxes, I didn't want to get burned. And this was so horrific that I wanted to be absolutely certain we were accurate. So I started digging, and it's been a very strange rollout on this story. Now here's a mainstream media report about it. And embedded in this mainstream media report is the initial Fox 29 television report from the local Fox affiliate there. This is from The Sun. Suspicious death investigation in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, in Middletown Township Police. And here, I'll run this so you can just kind of tease up the beginning of the story for you.
I'm not going to comment on the manner of death right now. I'll just say that he's deceased. There's a person of interest. That person's located and detained. And I think the neighborhood can rest easy because I think they were a little uneasy for a while before they knew where the person of interest was. I'm not going to comment on the manner of death right now. I'll just say that he's deceased. Okay.
So they repeat the audio here, and that's image of the police at the home where the deceased was found. And headline here is Work of Satan. Justin Mohn, 32, published eerie book about Kingdom of Darkness before he decapitated dad and showed off head in video. Goes on and says, Mohn wrote that Americans must choose between losing their freedom and killing their family members. Picture of his parents. That's a picture of his dad. And there's a picture of one of the books that Justin Mohn wrote. And another image of Justin Mohn, mugshot. And it's not his first encounter with police. He's been known to police, as the saying goes, for about a decade. Worked at an insurance company, Progressive, for about a year. Got fired. The thing is, the wording, the language that I came across with Justin Mohn, I've heard it all before. over the past year in particular. And that is what concerns me the most. Because this language I'm hearing from people around me, exact phrases, exact same language, same words, same ideas. A lot of it is, of course, stuff that is political, but there's something going on. And I did read, I got through one of the books entirely that he wrote. Let me show you. This is on the Maverick News website tonight. We have an article up that we have published about this on mavericknews.ca. And I have some images here of just a moment that we were able to get off social media before they scrubbed all his accounts. You will not find very much out there now at all. But here it is. Justin Mohn on the mavericknews.ca website. This is our article. I wrote this about 14 hours ago with content provided by Maverick News contributors. And, Justin Mohn, police say man decapitates father, calls on militias for protection. The timing on this is also of concern because we have this whole situation at the border. We have a convoy rolling down there, and he is making specific references to these issues in his video. This last video that he made. And there are references to these issues in his art, in his music. He wanted to be a musician. In his books, in his poetry. 32 years old. There he is. Some sort of a jacket, colorful, bold, because he fancied himself some sort of a musician. I can tell you this, I found some of his music online, and this guy was delusional because his music was terrible. He's basically tone deaf. And he was out there trying to make his mark on the world, playing guitar, singing with a band, and it's just god awful. Terrible, terrible, terrible. And he'd been at it for quite a while. So he was arrested about 2 hours away from where the body of his father was found, the decapitated body. And he was arrested about 2 hours away near Fort Indian Town Gap in Lebanon County, according to police. Police are continuing to investigate this. And he did post this graphic video on YouTube displaying the severed head. And then in this video, which I will not run because, it's going to be a problem, I'm going to tell you kind of what it is that he talks about in here that is of concern to me tonight. And I'll tell you why. It's because, well, first of all, ask yourself this. What are some of the things that concern you and are top of mind when it comes to your country, your future? And then listen to what some of the things that he said. Think if it doesn't just mesh in with what you've been bombarded with. Militias, armed militias, the need to use them. He, in his mind, came up with this idea that he was the commander of Mohn's militia and was the commander of a national network of militias. We see militias going to the U.S. border, and I'm not trying to conflate one with the other. What I'm saying is there's something going on with this guy's mind. He's not mentally stable, obviously. And, but something set him off. Something makes somebody like that? Now, you might think that you're born that way, but I'm seeing a pattern here where people who are vulnerable are being manipulated because the exact same ideas are coming to light. They're coming to the surface. I'm hearing the same language from other people who end up doing similar kinds of things, and I'll give you examples. So this is a guy who's opposed to the government, thinks the government is corrupt, calls for, and I want you to take particular note of this one, calls for all federal buildings and courthouses to be seized. I want you, now you guys out there in the Maverick family, if you've been watching this channel for a while, and I know that a lot of you have, where have you heard that before? All federal buildings and courthouses to be seized. That's what he was calling for. Of course, that's not going to happen because he's not the commander of, a national network of militias. He never was. But in his mind, he was. And have you heard? I've heard people calling for that. Seizing federal buildings, seizing courthouses in Canada. The exact same language, the exact same objective. And then calling on police to do the right thing. Stand with him and his militias. And do your duty. And ignore your orders from your superiors. Where have we heard that before? Oh, yes, and fighting for the children. Well, that's pretty common anytime any government, any insane government goes to war. It's all about the children. And there are other things that I'm not going to tell you that he was calling for because if I get too extensive in this, I don't think that the authorities want people to know what he was calling for because they don't want anyone to follow his directions. That's one of the reasons they've scrubbed all of his material off the internet. And understandably so. So I'm not going to share, too much more beyond that. All I'm saying is those are a few of the key things that he said that I've heard repeated over the last couple of years on a number of occasions. And I'm sure you have as well. And I think we all need to start asking ourselves how clear of mind we are. And we need to always question ourselves to see if we are looking at things objectively, realistically, or if we've been sucked so far down a rabbit hole that we've lost sight of reality. Because, reality is truth. Now, there can be different realities based on perspective, but reality is truth. If you have a distorted reality, then what you think the truth is not really accurate. It's not an accurate version of reality. It's a distortion. And so if someone takes reality and even tweaks it, by getting into your head somehow, that's not real. The Beatles' Yellow Submarine is not real. It's an idea that came out of an LSD trip. And it might be fun as an idea, and there might be deeper meaning in it, and philosophical lessons to be learned from artwork that is inspired by a drug-induced trip, but it's not real. But you could take those ideas and apply them to a real situation and go beyond that. This is a philosophical thing. The point is, this guy also wrote some books. And the other thing that he was really fixated on, child sex trafficking, because of course that is like the the base for the ultimate kind of fear porn that people are being subjected to, especially right now. I've noticed, all this sex crime, pedophilia, and it's a steady diet of that. All these real heavy duty emotional issues. Now you take those issues that get people jacked up like that, and you bombard them with that messaging. You hit somebody 1,000 times over with messaging about pedophilia. And if that's something that bothers you and you get hit with that 1,000 times, you tell me that can't break somebody's mind. Now, I speed read, so I probably only absorbed about 70, 80% of the content in any way that is coherent, but I got the gist, the base of what he was writing about it was this book here, I believe, The Second Messiah, it was called. You won't find it online anymore because I was able to buy it before and download it before it was scrubbed off Amazon. They don't want you reading this guy's stuff. Now, what's this book about? It is a book about him. It's based on his life, trying to become a musician, his life working for the insurance company, and his life that seems to revolve around drug use, in particular, cannabis. Now, I know everybody like cannabis doesn't even hurt you. It's good for you. Well, cannabis makes you freaking paranoid. Everybody knows that. And the cannabis alone, maybe it's benign. I don't use it. But you take somebody who's maybe a little bit unstable to begin with, then you get them smoking weed on a regular basis. And when I went through the first half of his book, focuses heavily on cannabis use. The characters in it are like using cannabis, different kinds and heavy descriptions. So he partakes regularly. Then you take someone who's a little bit unstable, you put them in front of the computer, you get them smoking weed, and then you bombard them with this kind of messaging that is emotional, disturbing, upsetting, it's fear porn because you feel like you're under a constant state of threat, where in this book, it also talks about all of this, invasions of illegal immigrants, pedophilia, sex trafficking, all these issues that we're all focused on and concerned about here every single night. And it's like constant. And people are carrying these phones around, as he was, I'm sure. But there's something more that happens with these guys who go this far. He, in addition to that, clearly felt isolated. He felt like he was a victim as a white male. He was having trouble with women. And I can understand that because I'm seeing our social fabric being, again, distorted, changed because of things like the sexual revolution, the new wave of feminism, the relationships between the sexes has changed, the advancement and promotion of transgenderism, and now even transhumanism, all these things. So it's changing, right? The nature of relationships between men and women. He's having trouble with that. He talks about working at an insurance company where he was fired, but he doesn't call it Progressive. He calls it the Chaos Insurance Company. And he talks a lot about sex trafficking. And then he gets into a lot of talk in this book, this fictional book, but it is clearly based on his life. And then he starts to talk about his involvement in Colorado in the presidential election and trying to discredit, presidential hopefuls who ended up resigning in one of the previous elections. It goes on and on. And in his mind, he is clearly making more of himself than he is. In fact, if you look at the title of this, King of the Earth and the Second Messiah, that's him. He has a messianic complex, a God complex. In the book, people around him decide that he is God. In the book, though, he says that he knows he's not God, but people think he is God. And so he becomes the king of the earth. And while he talks about a Cold War and infiltration into North America of the Chinese and in particular Russia, he talks about all this stuff. By the time we get to the end of the book, he orders a mass genocide as this new coalition of nation states, Russia, China, the United States, the European Western countries all come together and bomb Southeast Asia off the face of the planet on his orders. It's bizarre. He's kind of screwed up in the head, to say the least. But that's because he was able to do that because he went to Russia, was embraced over there, and in his mind, he is like the king of the earth. Well, they say that he's the king of the earth, so all the governments are following his orders. And in his video there, he's saying that he's the national, he's the commander of the national network of militias. And he was giving out orders. He was telling people to do things. I won't tell you what. And all this happening while this thing down in Texas is starting to happen. That's the other thing. Every time we get into a news cycle like this, where there's like a major development, it seems like we have an incident or two like this. And the messaging that comes through, always the same, it seems, especially over the last year and a half in particular. What am I talking about? I can give you specific examples. There was this, remember this? Only a month ago, the house explosion near the White House. House explosion rocks neighborhood near Washington, D.C. There was a lot of weird stuff surrounding that. And that guy's name, if I wrote it down here again, James Yu. Okay, they said that he was killed in the explosion, but then there were still posts being made afterward on the guy's Facebook page, or was it Twitter? Anyway, social media posts. I remember seeing them, and that led to some people saying the guy's still alive. I don't know. Apparently, shots fired. Then this thing exploded. And a lot of the stuff that he had been posting online, also political and very, very similar in nature to what Justin was posting online as well. Then there was also the guy who took all those guns to that amusement park in Colorado. And that was back in October, a couple months prior. So that we're getting these things, every month or two, another major deal like this. Here's one example of coverage of that incident, which we talked about here. And this guy, Diego Medino, went into this amusement park, heavily armed, wearing body armor, went into a washroom, was clearly conflicted emotionally, mentally unstable, painted "I am not a killer" on the wall of the washroom, and then took his own life. But with all the guns that he was carrying, it was pretty obvious that he was in there and had some sort of intention to shoot people. But it didn't come to that because for whatever reason, he decided to commit suicide before going through with it. Those are two examples. Then there was also Adrian Espuro. That's the guy who went to, here it is here. This is just another example. And this was back in September, a month prior to that. Adrian Espuro went to an RFK Jr. event in Los Angeles, also armed. And was arrested. He was posing as a security guard, or said that he had a job there, but he didn't. Anyway, if you went, and I went and found at that time online posted videos. And again, the same kind of anti-government political rhetoric, very, very similar language, same issues. Very, this guy very upset about these things, talking about them in his videos, and very concerned about election integrity, let's put it that way, and devoted very much to former President Trump. I'm just telling you, these guys are all spewing the same stuff. And I already gave you, again, and I talked about this before. Where have you heard these? Where have you heard this? I've heard it a bunch of times from people that you've heard it too. You're recognizing the language. You see the same rhetoric. Now, these issues, they're basically authentic issues. They are things we need to be concerned about. But there's perspective. There's truth. Truth comes from reality. Reality is also predicated on perspective. How serious is something? How bad is something? How scared should we be? With social media, it's difficult to know. And when people are trying to get clicks, or if someone's trying to get you to do something, they'll exaggerate. And they can make things look worse than they are, or sometimes not even as bad as they are. It depends on what their objective is. But there's a war on for your mind. These guys, and this is my personal assessment, they've been captured. Their minds were captured. Their minds were twisted. They lost all sense of perspective. While these issues may be legitimate, they consumed so much of the fear porn that they decided that the danger was imminent, that it was an existential threat to all of us, to the country. Clearly in their minds, they thought they were doing the right things, to the point where this guy saw his own father as the enemy. A federal government employee, his father was. Corrupt. Treasonous. There's another word that keeps coming up. Treason. Treason, treason, treason. That's a powerful word. Very serious. And you hear people calling for accountability on an issue like treason. Well, you know what the death penalty applies to an act of treason in many cases, right? That's a very serious charge. I'm here to tell you, everybody, hey, stay peaceful. Keep your head screwed on straight. This is dangerous stuff. This is very powerful. It's never really clear exactly where this stuff is coming from, and it may be coming from multiple places of origin. It's not just the CIA or the FBI or your government doing it to you. It's foreign governments, it's companies, it's media outlets, even independent streamers. Just because, they're not mainstream media, you don't trust the mainstream media, I'll tell you the truth. Well, maybe. Or they might exaggerate too. In fact, I'm telling you, some of them are. A lot of them, to get you to click or donate, to get you to do whatever they want you to do. A lot of grifting going on. But that's the least of our worries, the grifting. This stuff, something triggered that guy to act out in a violent way and do what he did last night. And it's horrific. And in the video, he's no remorse. It's like it's blank. There's no emotion. It's like you cannot be completely lucid. You have to be in some sort of an almost dream state in order to do something like that and have little or no emotion about that. A 1,000 times that kid was subjected to videos. They found out that kid had been subjected to 1,000 videos at least before he committed suicide. In today's hearing, we heard everybody's concerned about the kids. Oh my God, the kids, they're so vulnerable, right? The adults too. All of us. Every one of us. And the AI is just starting. We're getting 1 or 2 of these a month. And they take it all down. You can't find it. If I showed you what I have, you would never be the same again. I'll never be the same again after seeing it. And I've seen a lot. I've seen real life stuff, right? Bad enough, when I was working in mainstream media, as a cub reporter, first starting out, my very first assignment, car crash, sent me out. First thing I was subjected to, bodies, blood, same kind of stuff first responders see. And that was the beginning, and many, many, many years of that. Some people become desensitized to it. I never really did. You cope with it, but it affects you, and it still affects me today. I dream about a lot of what I've seen over the years, murders and just terrible things, so many terrible things, fire victims. What I saw last night was so disturbing to me. Not just because it was graphic, but because I could see how damaged this man was. How damaged psychologically he is. He's still alive. He's in custody. And I'm worried because I know that he's not the only one. There are so many others. I look into his eyes, and this isn't the best shot, but there was an emptiness there. as much as he's a perpetrator and as much as he committed a horrific crime, he's also a victim, in my opinion. And I don't have all the answers. I don't know how to deal with all the censorship issues and the technology. It's all so new. Social media. But you see that how many parents stood up behind Mark Zuckerberg and held up pictures of their kids today who had been harmed or had committed suicide or had been exploited in some way online, manipulated. Are you being manipulated? Are you suffering? We've all been suffering, especially since the pandemic. Locked down, locked up, isolated, glued to these things. And look what just happened. Look what could happen. All I can do is bring you the information. You do with it what you will. I'm just trying to warn you. And I hope you're listening. Because I care about you guys. They're doing it to us on every level, on every issue, on all these conflicts around the world, on the war in Ukraine, making people pick sides in this Israel-Palestine conflict, everything, making us pick sides. On and on. And it's going to continue. We need more media literacy. The best way to defend yourself is to understand that this is being done to you, to all of us. And don't think for a minute that you're smart enough to be immune. None of us are. I know that it affects me. I think the only thing that has helped me along this journey has been my training and experience in media, video production, computers, my background in film, my background in internet. It's just allowed me to, on a professional level, recognize production techniques, media production, video production, storytelling techniques, marketing techniques, all of these different things I understand because of my background in media lifelong. I recognize that stuff. Don't talk to me about football. Don't know squat about football. But this stuff, this is what I do. And I'm very worried because there is a war on for our minds. Stay with me. More ahead right after this.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
So just up to Canada for a moment, out to the province of Alberta, where the Premier of Alberta, Danielle Smith, man, she's really shaking things up. I saw today that the provincial government is pushing back on the city of Calgary in Alberta is enhancing the federal government's ban on single-use plastic items, or wants to. So the province, under the United Conservative Party, now led by Danielle Smith, pushing back on that to bring some of these single-use items back because they may actually not be as bad for the environment as we're being told, and in fact might actually be less harmful to the environment than some of the alternatives that have been thrust upon us. So looks like drinking straws might be coming back. Plastic drinking straws to Alberta. And then also today, and here I'll bring up this headline, Alberta is going to require, this is about the pronoun issue. Yes, if you're a parent, this is about the parental rights issue. Alberta will require parental consent for name pronoun changes at school. So Smith says that the province will require parental consent for students 15 and under who want to change their names or pronouns at school. Going on to say that students 16 and 17 will not need consent, but their parents must be notified. Of course, once you get to 18 years of age, you would be considered an adult, and then your parents don't really have any say in the matter at that point. So it looks like there might be a news conference on this tomorrow. If so, we'll pick up a clip or two from that, depending on what time it goes. Might even go live with it, but probably just pick up some clips from it. In addition, parents must also opt in for their children to be taught gender, sexual orientation, and sexuality in schools. And gender reassignment surgery will be banned for those 17 and under, according to Danielle Smith. So that's a definite hot topic. What else do we have here this evening? Let me see if we're going to go to the phones here in a few minutes as well. I was going to show you some propaganda films just to kind of contrast one against the other, but if I do, I think we'll get banned. So I'm not going to do that. But what I will do here is, as I was talking about the way there's a battle on for your mind to manipulate you. I'm a conservative kind of guy, but I do look at things across the political spectrum. And this is David Pepper, and he is, I would say, a Democrat. And as this convoy makes its way to Texas, he views this as, I want to show you this because he's going to give you a different perspective. He's going to give you the woke, liberal, neoliberal woke perspective so you can understand a little bit better why they react the way they do to the Patriot movement in the US, or freedom movement, whatever you want to call it. So here's David Pepper, and he's going to explain why. Well, this ties into what we've been talking about. Just listen to what he has to say.
Doesn't it feel like we've been here before, folks? You know, a big hype about the border, immigration, and then the Republicans refused to do anything about it. Well, a few years ago, 2018, they literally were in charge of every single office in the federal government. Yet they were hyping the what they called a caravan that was coming to our borders in late 2018, and somehow they couldn't stop it, even though they were in charge of everything. Well, this is obviously, and Trump knows this is why he's telling them not to do anything, but they would do it anyway, I believe. This is all obviously campaign strategy. And the campaign strategy is based on a really important insight we all have to have, and I write about this at length in my book, Saving Democracy. They know that for the most part, and this is blue and this is red, on their issues and with their voters, they are in the minority in this country. Most of their issues are too extreme, be it abortion bans or other things. So they know they're in the minority. So they're in desperate, search for any issue that they can throw out there that enrages, inflames their base enough so that at key moments of our politics, like presidential election years, they stoke their turnout, or they did 18, they stoked their turnout so that for the few months in a year or in 4 years, they're the majority that they otherwise wouldn't be. And they also are obviously always working to cut back on our majority through voter suppression and other things. But for the most part, they are desperate to find issues that engage and enrage their base to show up and create an artificial majority when they are typically in the minority on most views. And that's what this is, obviously. It worked in 18. In some states, they got turnout high enough that they overcame challenges in Florida, Ohio, and Georgia and other states. And they're trying to do it again now. Now, the good news is it's so grotesque right now that they're stopping the very thing that would solve the problem we talk about. I think people maybe see it for what it is. And Democrats should keep trying to work to come up with a reasonable solution on what's happening on the border of immigration. But the lesson also is, if all we do is engage on the issue that they're stoking anger about, we could still lose. We have to be smart to figure out what can we do on our side and how do we talk about it so we get our turnout also very high. That's how we win.
So I think there's some truth in that. I see that both sides use emotion to generate a strong response from their voter base so that they get large voter turnout, so that people are highly motivated to come out and vote. I get that. I think what he's suggesting here is that the Republicans, the MAGA movement, that the people at the top don't really want a solution to the immigration problem because they need the immigration problem to continue because that is their key issue. So if they solve it, they can't get people jacked up about a problem that has been solved. Makes sense, I guess, in a conspiratorial sort of way. But there you go. There's the other perspective. And if you really want to know how things are playing out, why things are playing the way they're playing, why the other side acts the way they do or reacts the way they do, that might just help you. Now, stay with me. I'm going to open up these phone lines and we'll give you guys a chance to weigh in on tonight's conversation.
Feel the vibrations. Our quest continues. The truth is out there. We are Mavericks.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay. Phone lines are open, and this is the number to call.
Join the conversation. Call 1-833-975-3733. That's 1-833-975-FREE. Speak up. Speak out. Make your voice heard. Maverick News. Fighting for freedom by defending your right to free speech. Be a Maverick. Join us.
One 833-975-3733. 1-833-975-FREE. That's the number to call. One more time, 1-833-975-3733 to join the conversation tonight here on the Maverick News Channel. Let's go to our first caller. Go ahead. You're on the air.
You got the mouth of the salt of man without a plan, the master of all your disasters, Rick. I was going to invite you over to smoke some weed, but I might just buck your damn head off. You got some nice hair.
Yeah, well, as long as nobody's decapitating their parents, it's all good fun, I guess. What else can I say?
I gotta admit, every time that I smoke weed, I just want to go around shopping at Buc-ee's and fucking heads off down in Texas. You should investigate which big pharmaceutical psychotic drugs these people are on.
Well, he doesn't talk about that, Leo, in
hearing-
his book, but he does talk about the
no,
other
of
stuff
course he would.
extensively.
Because it's legal. It's what do we say? It's
No, it's because he's a
socially
psycho,
acceptable to
and
take your-
it makes him paranoid.
socially
And I'm just
acceptable.
telling you what he said in his book.
Oh, you can say whatever he wants in his book. Okay, it's socially acceptable to take your
Yeah,
Prozac
and
your
Leo, I know you've been
Seroquel
on here
and
lots of
whatever else.
times, and I've given you lots of airtime, and your friends, your marijuana activists, have been on here extensively, and I've got my opinion, and you have yours, and this guy just chopped his dad's head off.
Yeah. Okay.
I
get you.
It's
I know
so,
where you're-
and I'm just,
I know where you're going. I know where you're going. Okay. Also today in your neck of the woods, I heard on AM 800 on my drive into work today that there was a guy convicted for 9 years for killing mother and daughter, I think, in a car accident in Chatham, your town.
okay.
Drinking and driving. Drinking and driving is third time.
Yep,
which is a
that's
mess,
bad too.
okay? But 100%. I think I'm not going to refute that some people do bug out.
Mhm.
You can bug out from smoking tobacco. You can bug out from drinking coffee, too much of
Yeah.
it. You can bug out from this and that, right? It's all about a metabolism. Now, can your psyche take it? I don't know. I don't know. But all I know is, shit happens. And a lot of people are using cannabis as a cop-out. I used it. I used it in 1990. I was involved in an armed robbery with a jewelry store in Vancouver. And the judge asked me why they do it. Well, I was smoking marijuana. And guess what? That lessened the sentence. It had nothing to do with the marijuana. It had something to do with somebody being stabbed in the eyes in the penitentiary. And my main goal was to go in there and murder them. That was my goal. That was my mission. Right? It had nothing to do with the pot. So I've been hearing it my whole life. Okay, you smoke marijuana, it's a crazy man's weed. You're going to turn into Charles Manson and start doing crazy shit, right? So,
well, you know, I'm not trying to fearmonger, but I am, you know, certainly seeing a pattern. There's consistency here across all of these incidents over the last, especially number of months. I gave you very exact examples, and I'm seeing the exact same pattern in each one of these guys as I dig into the background and what they talk about. And it's almost identical. And it's not just the one thing. It's not just cannabis. It's the combination of, I think, mental vulnerability to begin with, constant
100%,
you know, constant subjugation to this messaging, whatever it is they're being subjected to online, the messaging they're getting, right? Psychological manipulation, frequency of messaging, and fear.
I think you're on to something. Maybe the MK Ultra. You have to bring up that topic again, right? Because something's going on, no doubt about it.
Yeah, that guy, like the pilot, you know, trying to bring the airplane down. That's another one, right? It's like, I just don't think it's not just one thing. There's weird stuff going on, and it's the pattern. It's the consistency of it. I wouldn't have thought much about it if I wasn't sitting in this chair and taking this information in and seeing it. And it's not just one thing. It's like a whole set of circumstances and information and very specific language. And it's also the words they use, the issues that get them jacked up. It's almost identical.
I grew up in a loving family environment, okay, with 11 kids. And my dad was an auto worker, and okay, one of the nicest guys you ever met till he started drinking. And after a dozen beers, I can't count how many Christmas parties and other parties, the table was turned upside down, the dishes were broken. Okay, it was insane.
And see, not everybody responds to alcohol that way, right? So drugs affect different people in different ways. You get somebody who's a little off center to begin with, and then you give them some of this, and then you sit them down in front of the computer and you show them whatever. And it's a psyop of some. I'm just saying, we know that these psychological manipulations have been studied, and I would say, you know, they're very advanced at this point. You talk about MK Ultra, it's a real thing.
I think the internet is a big culprit, like you're saying. It's given people different ideologies. Okay, the shit disturbers out there. Okay, you know. And what the Senate had to say today, you know, I never knew that Zuckerberg and all the sex trafficking and all that shit that goes. I'm on Facebook a lot, man, and I don't get any of that shit. Yeah, I get women trying to friend me in bikinis and shit. I know exactly what that's about, right? But I don't friend them, right? I stay away from that shit.
Yeah,
right. It's you know, if it's used for good, it's used for good. And there's, like the one senator said, you know, there is some good with it. There is some good that comes out. You know, you're advertising your business, doing whatever, you're networking. Okay. But the social media aspect of it, I don't know. And
I'm not here to try. I'm not here to try and demonize Facebook or social media or demonize weed or demonize anything. But it's pretty clear to me that there's something bad going on. There's a pattern. I'm worried about the kind of messages that are being shared with people. I'm worried about people who are vulnerable already being made even more vulnerable through the use of drugs of various kinds. I'm worried about the pharmaceutical drugs too, because that clearly seems to be an issue in these cases, especially with school shootings. And so, antidepressants, it's a problem.
Yeah. Hey, It's a problem. I shared last night World at War, the Dean Ryan show. He's got a good show. And I called in, okay, StreamYarded. And last night I shared something that happened 2 nights ago to my daughter, who took an Uber home because she was drinking at her friend's house. And as she was getting out of the Uber driver grabbed her privates. So my daughter freaked out. She called me. I was on the couch. I live right next door to her. She lives 50 feet from my house. I said, call them back. Right? She said, I already called the police. So she called the police. The police came. They charged the fellow with sexual assault. Okay, he put his hands on my daughter. And this is the powerful thing about social media where I'm getting to here. I already have the guy's fucking name, and I got his picture. I shared it with Anasty last night.
Yeah.
Now, what am I going to do with that? In another 24 hours, I'll have his fucking address, too. Right? So, who knows?
Gotcha.
Who knows where this is going to go? Right? That's my
I hear
daughter.
you. Yeah.
Right? So,
Well,
it is what it is. And that's the
sorry
powerful
to hear
thing
about
of the
sorry
internet.
that happened to your daughter, man.
She's all right. She wasn't raped. Okay, she wasn't raped. But he put his hands on my daughter. And what do you know, Rick? What do you know? Anastasy's got the guy's name and the picture too. Okay. And my daughter said he didn't even speak English. He's one of these fucking border crossers, okay, that probably got an IQ of fucking 2, driving an Uber and pulling this shit in my country. This is great immigration we have here, right? So who knows what I'm going to do with it? I know what I could do with it, and I'm sure the police know exactly what time of day it is. I'm already looking at who knows what for the next. So run it concurrent. I don't give a shit. At this point, early,
Well,
it is what it is, right? So,
yeah.
If I disappear from the Maverick show, Anasty, you'll probably know where I'm at because I don't make news, right? But, these creeps are fucking normalizing fucking sexual assault. What's going to happen to a guy he goes to court, he gets convicted. What happens to him, Rick? Nothing. Fuck all. Here's probation. Kick in the ass. Right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
The whole justice system's sickening. Really it is, And now, my daughter's a victim, and that makes me a fucking victim because if I don't do something about it, I'm a bad fucking dad. I'm not going to let it slide, bud. I'm not. And I'm sure the police know I'm not going to let it slide. And they're probably listening. I really don't care. I really don't. So that'll be a story for you coming up next. With that being said, good night, my friend. I get to go home right now because I started work at 12:15 today, and my day shift ends in 15 minutes.
Okay. Well, stay safe. Keep your head screwed on straight, man. And my thoughts are with you and your daughter tonight. I'm again very sorry that she went through that.
Me too. Thank you, Rick.
Okay, Leo, my friend. We will talk to you again next time.
Bye.
Okay, folks. And again, the number to call 1-833-975-3733, 1-833-975-3733 to join the conversation tonight.
Join the conversation. Call 1-833-975-3733. That's 1-833-975-FREE. Speak up. Speak out. Make your voice heard. Maverick News. Fighting for freedom by defending your right to free speech. Be a Maverick. Join us.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
Fighting the Great Reset. By leading the Great Resistance. Maverick News. The antivirus programs for your mind.
Okay, so again, the number to call if you want to join the conversation is 1-833-975-3733. And if you want to support the show, you can do that. We do still have Maverick shirts. If anybody donates $60 or more, I will send you a shirt with the embroidered Maverick News logo on there. And I also have these SST Car Show shirts, which I particularly like. They have, these are Dickies shirts, and they have the logo for the car show embroidered on there in silver metallic thread, which is particularly sparkly. Again, $60 or more. Now, in addition to that, do I have them? Here they are, up here. Let me grab one. I still have a few of these left while supplies last. Only a few. I think we have 3 left. Hot Wheels Batmobiles. And if you order a shirt, I'll send you one of these as a bonus. Autographed. Sell it on eBay as soon as you get it because the value is going down. So there is that too. And $30 or more, and I can send you a t-shirt, which is actually quite nice too. They're pretty high quality with the big Maverick News logo on the front. Now, let's see here. I think we've got another caller in the queue. Let's pick it up here. Oh, yeah, and to donate, by the way, because I didn't bring it up there, to donate, you really should go to either maverickdonations.com or most people go here, freedomreporters.com. And if you want a shirt, send me a message when you donate telling me what size you need. They're all black, so you have to take it in black, which is the best color anyway. And just let me know what size you want, and I'll send it out. And if you get one of those shirts, you get a Batmobile. If you get it while supplies are still here. Okay, let's go back to the phones here again at 1-833-975-3733. And here's our next caller. Go ahead, sir. You're on the air.
John here.
John, how you doing?
Hey, I want to thank you what you did. Send me 5 shirts like that. I
You're
like
welcome.
the Malta shirt's nice. Like long sleeve. You got, and you know what? You sent me the T-shirt. I bought 2 before. These ones are better quality than the ones you sent me. I noticed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It depends on the batch when we get them in, right? Whatever we get. So these ones are pretty good.
Yeah, I wear it every day. I got so many of them now that I can just rotate. You know.
Well, you're absolutely in fashion now.
I do the wash, but I live in t-shirts, Rick. I don't. I'm not a business guy. You know, I don't like dressing up, no tie,
Yeah.
I got some nice suits and shirts, but you know what? I'm gonna probably donate them to somebody because I don't use them. Fed up.
Yeah.
It's all I'm real. I
Yeah.
don't like the head fake people.
Yeah.
When I was young, you had to wear them to get up the ladder fast.
Yep.
Now I don't give a two hoots about the ladder. Yeah, it's a dog eat dog world out there, and I'm standing here with my dog bone underwear on. They're all. You gotta
Yeah.
be. This lady I
Right.
work for,
Hmm.
she's from Romania actually. She's an engineer, mechanical engineer. She's been here a long time. And I said to her, I'd like to go to Romania. I heard the dental work is cheap there. All kinds of. It's so much cheaper there than here. It's worth just to go there. She goes, yeah, but you got to play the fight in the hotel. I says, yeah, but I go to look. I want to go see Castle Dracula there and look around. There's nice beaches there. She goes, oh, it's a nice place. It's a beautiful place. She says, but you got to be careful with the gypsies there. They'll rob you, pickpocket you. I says, is that bad? She goes, oh, yeah. I said, maybe I can find a nice woman there and she can work for me here. I have all kinds of money, wallets and credit cards. I don't know. No. Yeah, you see them on the street, panhandling. I don't know where you live, but here, I swear to God, 4 corners, they got them all working there. One came up to my window the other day, knocking at my window. I didn't even look. she told me, this lady told me that they wear these long dresses and there's like fucking 100 pockets in there. So when they pickpocket you, you don't know what pocket it's in. There's so many pockets. Fascinating, eh? The world, huh?
It's a dangerous place, the world.
Yeah, it's yeah. I'm watching. I watch YouTube a lot more than TV now. It's just there's so much interest. Like right now, I'm watching Scott Ritter. Russia army is preparing for a war in the Middle East. This is new. 5 hours. It says it came out 5 hours ago, but the date says it came out Tuesday. But he's saying that NATO's running out of ammo because they're giving it all away. They're giving all their old. They're giving all their old. Well, we knew that they're giving all their old equipment to Ukraine because.
Yeah, that's right.
But they can't build. They can't build fast enough.
Yeah, well, it was a liquidation sale to Ukraine on stuff. Right?
Yeah, but they can't keep up with the stockpile. They're way behind. So and Biden, he's flexing his muscles, saying that he's going to hit 3 different countries in the Middle East there. So who knows what's going to happen there? It could start the spark. You know what I mean? Once that spark gets going, it's going to be hard to put out.
Well, we've seen the Russia come out and say, don't do it because you're going to get yourself into a cycle of escalation. And I tend to agree with that. I think it's a trap. I don't think that they should hit back very hard at all.
Yeah. And the Yahoo Jew there in Israel, he wants to make a swap deal with Hamas or whatever they are. 53 hostages for 53 hostages, and 1 month ceasefire for 1 month. You think they're going to go for that? They're not stupid, right? These guys, they'll try anything. The guy doesn't want to stop. He's a warmonger, and as soon as he stops, he's going to be out of office, maybe in jail too. He's going to be voted out soon as this Gaza thing ends. He's gone. So
Yeah.
But that's his latest offer. I was watching it tonight. 53 hostages for 53 hostages and 1 month of ceasefire. 1 month. Yeah, okay. We'll go. We'll do it. I don't think that's gonna fly, anyways. But
Probably not.
we'll see.
I mean,
No.
I don't think that. Well, anyway, we'll see. It's out of our hands,
Yeah.
really. All we can do is just report on what happens. Ultimately, I'm getting a little tired of trying to figure out or predict things, if you know what I mean. And I think even Scott
Yeah.
Ritter, when you look at the predictions he's made, and he's a very knowledgeable guy, but he's not the only one. It has been, so it's just dragged on, and it's still not over. So we'll see.
Yeah. So, all that stuff on here, like the U.S. is committing suicide if we don't do this. Scott Ritter again. The guy's all over the fucking place. I don't know. That guy must be a special report.
Let me ask you this.
I don't know what that.
Scott's a friend here, right? But he's been on the show a number of times. But let me ask you something. Has he ever in the last, since the beginning of the Ukraine war or special military operation, whatever you want to call it, has he ever said that the U.S. is going to win anything? Ever? Even one time?
He says the U.S. is, here's what he said.
Yeah.
And this was just yesterday I was watching him. He says the U.S. is very, very good at blowing things up, but they never win the war.
I shouldn't laugh.
That's what he said. The U.S. is very, very good at blowing things up, but they never win the war.
Yeah.
And it's true, though.
Yeah. Well,
not true though, but it's true.
You know why? Because ultimately you don't win a war by blowing stuff up. Wars are almost always, except for World War II. I think that just about every other war is, every modern war is settled at the table at the end, right? There's always a political solution in the end, always. You blow things up for a while, and then you still end up at a table hammering out an agreement. So anyway, John, I guess
don't know. It's going to get ugly.
Yeah. Yes, I agree with that. Yeah, unfortunately, I think you're right on the money there. Yep.
Okay, you got other callers? Well,
we do, sir.
Thank you
Thank
very
you for
much
calling
again.
in.
I'm going to send you some money for those. I don't take nothing for nothing. And people out there, they're really nice shirts. Once you put it on, you're going to want another one and another one. I'm telling you, they're beautiful shirts. I know my shirts. I got so many rock shirts here. I just like my Maverick shirt. It's the best, man. They're really good. Long sleeve, short, whatever you're into, man. But I like T-shirts. Okay,
Well,
Rick.
I'm glad you like them. Glad they fit. Thank you, John. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, they fit. Okay, bye.
Okay, see ya. Okay, and let's see here. Who do we have on the line now? Go ahead. You're on the air.
Good evening, Sir Maverick.
Hello, Sir Chris, or Dame Chris.
I think I said Maverick Chris on your recording this time, but I don't know if it.
Yeah, it comes up as text on my end, and I didn't even get a name on the screen.
Oh.
So.
Oh.
Anyway.
Weird.
Yeah,
Okay.
sometimes I do. Sometimes I don't.
Yeah. Oh, Johnny's funny. He always makes me laugh.
Yeah.
What a good guy. I love his stories. Anyways, but he's kind of right about the States. My dad, he was in World War II, and I remember him always saying how he hated fighting or protecting the Americans. He hated the States so much after the war that we couldn't even go travel down there or anything. He just said it was just, they're just such a joke when you're fighting with them. And I did, I was younger then, so I really didn't understand, but I don't want to see any wars anywhere. And, except, I like these wars that are going on to end. Seriously, everything's just going crazy.
Yeah.
You know, like I was gonna ask you if this was FU Friday, because I know it's only Wednesday, but this has been an awful week.
It has
Just
been.
awful.
Yeah.
It's just been terrible. And I want to thank you last night for letting me call and vent to you, because I'm still a little bit upset about what happened yesterday.
Yeah.
And I did do a lot of on my Facebook. I deleted some people, blocked them, and I rearranged my Facebook settings. I figured out a way to do some stuff, and a friend helped me. So, because I think it's time to protect, I need to protect myself, because what happened yesterday, I didn't need that. Especially in front of all those people.
Yeah, and we got to be careful
Like,
what we
I'm
say
sorry,
here.
but-
I don't think we want to.
Exactly. And
name
that's
names and
exactly what. Exactly. And I'm not going to say any names, because you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with that thing down in Texas. That should be still pretty interesting. See,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
that Soup Mama will on tomorrow with more info as to what's going on.
Yeah, I mean,
I know a lot of people are.
as we said on the phone, as I, said to you on the phone, I personally don't get the feeling that anything that bad is going to happen. I don't think that, I just don't see the violence happening down there or anything like that. I see people getting down there and hanging out at the border and some news coverage. But I mean, I don't know. I don't really know. I'm not getting the feeling that, and I don't see any information. I'm not hearing anything that leads me to think that this is going to erupt into something bad. It's just, it's a political thing. It's a political demonstration. That's as much as I see out of it at this point. And I don't see the giant convoy that was originally predicted. So I just don't think there's a mob going down there in a size that will be so disruptive to the community that it's going to cause problems either. That's just kind of the way I see
heard
it.
something about. I heard that all these protesters, like the convoy, they're not even going to get close to the border. They're going to be holding them back about 40 kilometers or whatever in miles it is down there, because they go in miles. They're not even. So these people aren't even going to get right up to the border to see what's going on. I mean, you honestly think that the National Guard's going to let them get that close just for fear of something could, they do carry guns down there, right? So
they'll control it. You
yeah,
see, you've got the National Guard, you have police, you have, the government. They're going to, they know they're on their way, and they're going to set barriers up or whatever, and have areas for them to do whatever they're going to do in a way that's controlled. I expect by the time they get there, so that people just are kept safe. I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't think it's going to erupt into a lot of what we're hearing about.
No.
Like you said, you never know what to believe anymore. So
yeah. And in people's minds, I think they think people are going to go down there, and you're going to have militias sitting next to National Guard troops and pushing the migrants back by the thousands, and a huge scuffle. And, that's what's being, played up in people's minds. But I'm just here to try and give you proper perspective, and I'm not seeing that here at all.
No. And, like in the mainstream media, not that I listen to it, but once in a while I do, you don't even hear them talking about it really. Yeah. They really, I mean, they're not even really, you think that especially the American news, you think that they'd be really focused on that, right? And it doesn't seem to be a big issue for the news, which is kind of surprising. So again, maybe they know something we don't know.
Yeah, or, by this time tomorrow, the whole situation may have changed. Maybe they'll get thousands and thousands of trucks and convoyers. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll just have to watch and see what happens. We're just observers.
And I see, that's all you can do. And I see Daniel Smith there is a news feed going out that she did a video talking about the gender thing today. I watched it actually just before you came on. So that you can watch that later. That's going on. So I guess it's another sort of win for the province, I guess. I mean,
depending on which side of the issue you're on, but on, I think for the people.
Yeah, exactly.
Here, Yeah, I think so. A lot of people here
Yeah,
would be
well, you know
celebrating
what?
that.
Yeah, well, I just believe that parents should have that right until the
Mhm.
child, like you said, is old enough or mature enough to decide what they want to do, right?
Yep. When you're an
Other than
adult,
that,
do what
you
you
know,
want.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
So that was basically all. I just wanted to call in and thank you for letting me vent to you last night and to, you know, it's been a rough week and Friday can't come fast enough.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God. So I'm trying to put this, you have to laugh. So I bought a TV, I bought this TV stand, right? Thinking, okay, I can put this together myself, right?
Yeah.
Well, I bought the TV stand on Saturday. And so far I got the little shelf built. And then it's got those little pegs that you put in and then it snaps together. But then it's got these big screws that have to go in. And then they got these little like locking things. So you put it in and then the screw has to go in and you have to make sure it's right on with the lock to turn it to lock it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it ain't working out. Nothing's getting tight. I can't tell you how frustrated I am at this point. Like I've got the bottom attached, but nothing is I'm thinking, what? This is ridiculous. Like nothing's getting tight on it. It's like, I don't know if I'm doing something wrong or I don't know. I think, I just want to show my kids that, hey, I don't need your help. I can do this. It's frustrating. I'm telling you. So, the stuff, and it came from China. So you know those locks I'm talking about that they kind of go right into the hole.
Yeah.
And then the screw kind of goes, and then you got to turn it right. So I'm turning and it feels like it's locking, but yet everything's still really loose. So I don't. Anyway, this has been going on since Sunday. So yeah, I'm pretty frustrated at this point, but I'm going to persevere. I'm going to still continue. I have to take it apart and start again.
Okay. Well,
Oh
good
my
luck.
God.
If all else fails, read the instructions. And when that doesn't help,
Well,
then you just
I am
ask
reading
for
the
help.
instructions. I guess. All right, Rick. You have a good night. Talk to you later.
Okay. See ya.
Bye.
And okay, who's up next here?
Hey, Rick.
Choosy.
Hey,
How
Rick,
are
it's Choosy. I'm all right. How you doing?
I'm just fine, sir. Good to hear
It's
from
kind
you.
of as above. It's kind of as above, so below, with somewhat pasty lizard mouth syndrome going on. That's the way I feel today. But some dinner's going to help that, I hope. We got new information that's new for me. Kind of an interesting 2-minute video from the Order of Malta's own YouTube website, channel is what you call that, regarding the 81st Grand Master of Order of Malta. And it's pretty packed with disturbing imagery and a bunch of BS for 2 minutes and 24 seconds long. And you get a look at who is the Grand Master of North American Order of Malta, and he kind of giggles maniacally, and then he glares creepily at the camera. And they got their Darth Vader Baphomet costumes and their swords, and it's pretty disturbing. And this guy, he is certified in New York State bar law, and he's also, Ontario bar certified. So he's geographically desirable with Cardinal Dolan, the Jesuit cardinal who is the de facto dictator. So all the pieces of the puzzle are really falling together at this time. And I recommend that everybody looks at that video so they're familiar with what we're dealing with.
Okay.
And
send me a link or email me a link or whatever so I can make sure that I see the right video.
if you just put in John Dunlap, Order of Malta, the first video is going to come up on YouTube. Is from Order of Malta. It's 2 minutes and 24 seconds long. You can't miss it. And yeah, it's worth the look. And the way he looks, I'm wondering if that Buffalo shooter isn't his love child. Got that same look, kind of. You'll see what I mean. You'll see what I mean. All right. What else is going on? You need my choosy take on anything, or we'll keep it short?
Well, keep it short, but give me a take on what you think of this guy who decapitated his dad, or is accused of decapitating his dad.
Now, this happened in Middletown, PA.
Yeah.
And that's too close to me to be hearing about it from Canada. And I'm too busy talking all day with the lawyer chats and stuff, and this didn't come up. But my take is, now they're blaming it on what, synthetic marijuana again?
Well, no, I'm just saying that I'm seeing a pattern. And then this guy wrote a number of books, and I went through as much of the material as I could. And he goes on and on and on for multiple times over the first half of the one book about marijuana, cannabis. It's just a lot. It's central in everything that in his existence, really, in this semi-autobiographical, fictional, but biographical.
So he's like
thing.
the weed. He's like, that's what his whole identity was. He was the weed man or something. Is that what we're saying?
What I'm saying is, I'm seeing that as one of the elements in a pattern that has developed through a string of these kinds of events and incidents and crimes involving these shooters and the similar, almost identical language, same issues that set them off or get them upset. He writes about these issues in his books. In the video that he posted online before he committed this horrific act, he speaks about these issues extensively, in the exact same ways that these other guys talk about them in their social media posts. It's a definite pattern. And then they take it all down before people can get the information, before you really know. Last night, there were a couple of independent streamers who are putting the information out, but they're all taken down as well now, because if you put that out, then they'll ban your channel. If I ran that stuff tonight, we would have been taken down by now for sure.
So is this guy living with his dad? We don't know.
I don't know if I can't confirm that in the information that I had. But it appears to me that was the case. 32 years old, had trouble with women. That's another pretty common thing, right?
Right.
So there's that. There is isolation. It's these political issues, in particular for these people acting out in this way on the right of the political spectrum, if you want to say that. It's the same kind of push button issues, particularly, especially around things like the immigration thing, feeling like they've been marginalized because they are being discriminated against because of their ethnicity, white, usually, not always, but usually. And also the other thing is the child exploitation that gets them, very upset. So just a series of these things. And he talks about all of it. And then it's the strategy too, that is common. It's like seize all federal buildings and courthouses. Where have we heard that before? Multiple times. I don't need to tell you.
Yeah, and that's not an actual counter-inquisition narrative. I've got the actual counter-inquisition narrative. We got to occupy and expose the Order of Malta responsibly and request the standing military legal justice rescue. And yeah, so it smells like Jesuits to me. and it's got all the hallmarks and sounds like the Jesuit breadcrumb trail. I would like to know what. Yeah, we would need to know what the father's capacity was with the government. We need the details on that. We would need to know their backgrounds. And I'm sorry, I don't know much about it, but there does seem to be they like to invert everything. They illegalized weed and they made something that was abundant, and there was a glut on the market, and they were feeding it to the hogs to fatten them up, and using it to smoke the hams at the same time. It wasn't a problem in society, but then they demonized it. They made it scarce. They made it criminalized. They made it expensive, and here we are.
Yeah, well, whatever it is, or whatever techniques are being used, I'm seeing a pattern, and it's an observation and analysis with opinion.
Multimedia. It's nice multimedia, Rick. There's a pattern of their timing. Look, Jimmy Dore just quit weed and Snoop Dogg at the same time. What a coincidence. They're flipping the tables. First they illegalize weed, then they legalize it. Now they're going to demonize it at the same time. It's all about cognitive dissonance. But at the end of the day, what this kid we can call him a kid because he's Arrested Development over in Pennsylvania is doing is a sacrificial ritual. And that's Roman. It's diabolical. And anytime you see this extremism or the tunnels or whatever, it's inducted Roman. It's not religious. There's no actual science or logic about it. And any kind of verbal or otherwise violence is not helping the counter inquisition. Those people are confused. And it's not my fault for not going to the bar to, make sure I touch every foot. People who are doing this stuff are probably inducted, or the people around them are inducted, and they end up being targeted individuals. What happened with that?
Just going to get you to wrap it up because I've got a bunch of calls stacked up here, Choosy, but go ahead and wrap up for us.
Yeah. What happened with that kid in Buffalo is the school counselor had all the information. And they totally fumbled it. It looked like, he was like, oh, we got us a shooter. I'll just send him back down the hall. Be somebody else's problem Anyway, Rick, much love. We'll catch up soon.
Okay, thank you, my friend. I'll look.
All right, we'll get there. We will. Let's say, let's apply the information that we know. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right, here's Charlotte. Hello, how are you tonight?
Hello. I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine. Go ahead.
Well, I wanted to say to you about the marijuana thing. You're sort of wrong.
Okay.
But you're sort of right. I think that it should be legal because it's none of the government's business what a person does. It's a plant that was given to us by God.
Well, I'm not here tonight to relitigate the marijuana issue. I'm just telling people a pattern that I'm seeing with these crimes, and I'm telling you again that this was has been one of the elements in each of them, and it was prominent in this one specifically again. And he writes about it extensively in his books, and specifically in the book that I wrote in. It comes up like many times in all of the chapters, especially through the first half of the book, where he even has like a crazy God complex. But that's another thing. And I'll tell you this, I had an email come in within the last week from someone else who strangely hasn't done anything like this, but in the email, and I don't want to read it to you because I don't want to single this person out in any way at this point. But the information in the email from this other person, very similar again, same talking about many of the same things. And right in the middle of it, also messianic complex where they compare themselves to Jesus and even having the ability to walk on water. I am not joking. And this is a person who otherwise would fit right in, honestly, with our family here, because the way that it's conveyed in the email, it sounds like it's sort of like a reasonable thing to be saying in a way, but it isn't.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing with this guy. You listen to what he says in the video, and it's like I would be like listening to that. I could be listening to just about anybody, right? But then he's goes off the deep end. I'm just trying to warn people. Because I'm hearing the same thing. I don't know what else to tell you, man. You're being bombarded with the point is we're all being bombarded with this same messaging, the same psyop. Some people, though, it's setting them off. I want everybody to be aware that you're being subjected to the same things.
It does affect certain ways, but these people, not all of them that are talking this way are on marijuana or any drugs. I have a friend of mine that's I have a hard time talking to her because she's so into such conspiracy theories that I just don't get it.
Yeah,
like it's tiresome.
Right. I know.
I mean, I'm a conspiracy. I used to love to see, read about the new conspiracies, but now I don't like it anymore. It's just,
it tires you out after a while, burns you out. I guess all I can say is, again, and I've said this a few times over the last couple of weeks, if anybody out there has feelings or thoughts of doing anything violent to themselves or to other people, if you are feeling down, if you are feeling, so depressed that, you're thinking of doing anything stupid or crazy, if any of this stuff leaves you feeling so conflicted that you are like at your wit's end, phone me, man. Phone somebody. Get to somebody you can talk to. You can call me. I'm easy to find. Phone me up and I'll talk to you, because you don't want to do what that guy did or what the guy at the amusement park did or what anybody else is doing out there that is crazy like that. You don't need to jump off the cliff. Okay? It's not that bad. No matter what you're thinking, it's just not that bad. So please, anybody, if you are thinking like that at all about doing anything like that, do not. You can call me. Call somebody in the Maverick family. Call somebody.
For
Just
Leo, settle down and let the police handle it.
Well, yeah, that's probably the wise thing. But I don't tell people what to do. He's going to take care of business in his own way.
Politely, let the police handle it.
Yeah, I love Leo, and he's got his family, and, he knows how to take care of himself. So I'll leave that with him.
Yeah, but I understand when something like that happens, you feel, but he needs to let the police handle it, and the police will handle it. The guy's been charged. That's good enough.
We will see. Anyway, Charlotte, we should probably move on here.
Head.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everybody should think before they act, always, right? Yeah, think before you act. Yeah, do what's best for your family, for you. Think. Do what's best for your family and for you. Okay?
That's right.
There you go.
Yes.
Thank you, Charlotte. It's always a pleasure. Take care.
Bye.
See ya. Okay, here's Paul.
Okay, bye.
See ya. Go ahead, sir.
Hey, Rick.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, Rick.
Hello.
Hi. Not bad. Hi, Mavericks. Hi, Mavericks. You hear me?
We can hear you. You go ahead.
Is this the Maverick helpline? Rick,
It can be if it
it's
needs
got to
to be.
be something in the water with these. Huh?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm listening.
It's got to be. It's got to be something in the water with all that shit that's going around. And I know exactly what you're talking about. I had a sneak peek of the video, and believe me, nobody wants to look at that.
Yeah.
And I know exactly where you're coming from because you hear the same rhetoric all around here, and it's pretty much what he said. And now with this border stuff going on, it's I hope they took it down before anybody seen that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm glad I'm glad you understand. It's difficult to explain to people when you can't show them the video, right? But
I get it. I get it.
Thank you.
I get it. And like there was like at first when you look at it, you just see something out of the normal, but then after, no, it's not great. And yeah, and reach out to people. We all have Discord. We all in the chat every night. People have everybody's numbers. Talk to somebody. You know, I get what Leo's going through, and believe me, I don't know what I would do, but I would, you know.
Yeah.
It's really, you know, like you said, think before you act. And sometimes it's too late, but just reach out to everybody. You know, we're a tight family here. We all know, we all come here every evening, have a few laughs, cheer people up. And, you know, we don't know where everything's going around their whole lives, but there is, you know, we only have one person to blame. It's Trudeau. And everything seems to go on top of us.
Yeah. Yeah. We can help each other, right? So yeah, if you're feeling like you need to talk to somebody, you've got people in the chat to talk to, but you know, talk to somebody who's going to help you. And yeah, I'm so grateful for you calling in and sharing this tonight, Paul.
Yeah, no problem. I know where you were going, like what you were trying to say there, and without giving too much information, you know. And you got your channel to watch out for, right? Because without your channel, then we lose the whole family here, right?
Right.
So,
yeah.
Anyways, if you have any more callers, and by the way, great shirts. I got something in the mail coming for you.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. All right, sir.
All right, guys. Have a good night. I don't want to
All right.
hold up anymore if there's any more callers.
Okay. Well, thank you for calling in. Very helpful. Very positive. Appreciate it. Talk to you again soon.
Good night.
Take care. Okay. Let me just click on that, and I'm going to click on this. And we are out of the show over there, and we are in over here. And I'm going to take this banner down. And all I can say is, folks, thank you so much for spending the night here with me again. It's been an absolute privilege. Hope you found it helpful. We will be back tomorrow night. We will update you on the situation at the Eagle Pass border crossing in Texas. Soup Mama should join us live tomorrow. I would think she'll be in Texas by this time tomorrow night. So we'll get a firsthand account of what's happening there at the border. And I believe we will also have Kevin Michelizzi on again from Crimea, updating us on what the situation is with that war in Ukraine. He's knowledgeable, credible, and helpful. So I will see all of you back here at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow on the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.